Welcome to Titans Uncovered. I am the legendary ball number JC, aka Chev, aka your favorite podcaster's favorite podcaster. You can say I talk a lot, but you can't say I don't know what I'm talking about. And we got a lot to get into this week. First and foremost, I was wrong. Okay, I was wrong. I thought we would go into Houston and lose. So I will admit I was wrong. Basically, the Titans overcame Will Levis and CJ Stroud out Will Levis, the 3M Triple Mayo Madman memer, was able to go into Houston and get dubs. So let's talk about that a little bit, man. We got, like I said, we got the big win. Tony Pollard shined as a workhorse again, 24 carries, 119 yards, a touchdown. He was big time. The big game from a running back did not come from Joe Mixon. It came from Tony Pollard, and he was outstanding. So leading into that, we'll get to Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon, 15 carries, I believe 15 carries, 22 yards. Kenneth Murray and Jerome Baker were outstanding. The front was outstanding. Tavondre Sweat, Arden Key, Big Jeff. Oh my goodness. Big Jeff was a man amongst boys. We saw in a crucial situation the effects of bad coaching take full hold of the Texans. They left him, Big Jeff being Himothy, him buck two, okay, Himmy Turner, all right. They left him one-on-one with Texans left guard Juice Scruggs, and that resulted in a game-altering sack on a gotta-have-it drive that ended up eventually sealing the game with C.J. Stroud pulling a Dan Orlovsky and running out of the back of the end zone. So we might have sacrificed a little bit of draft position, but that was a fun game to watch. It was fun to watch the Titans fly around on defense, fully execute, and come out with the W, even though it's probably not what's best for our long-term plans. But we can move on to that. Things that we got right. Big TD catch from Nico, had another touchdown catch called back. That's very fortunate. That was very fortunate for the outcome of the game. I said that the Texans would cover 8 and go under. That game, the game didn't get anywhere close to going under the total of 40.5. And Stroud he was porous. Arden Key and Harold Landry and the boys kept him under siege. Tavondre Sweat got his first career sack, and he did Shaq Mason dirty. Shaq Mason is a well-respected guard in the league, and Tavondre Sweat manhandled him like he just wasn't even there. But that's what you're going to get from a guy like Tavondre Sweat. I mean, he is an absolute unit. I think he's playing around, if I had to guess, he's probably playing around 370 pounds, and that is just a rare combination of size and power and skill. He's not just a plugger. He is going to be, and we'll talk about this more later, he is going to be a future All-Pro. I'm calling it right now. You pair him up with Big Jeff, things are going to it's going to get hectic in there. It's going to get real hectic in there. But that brings us to covering up the last week's game. We can get into this week's game. The Titans go on the road to DMV, to the Dallas, Maryland, Virginia, whatever, or Delaware. Yeah, Delaware. Who cares about Delaware? Delaware, DMV, Delaware, Maryland, Virginia, and they're going to take on the Commanders this week. Commanders are 7-5. They're reeling a little bit. They've lost 3 straight. Hoping to make it 4 straight this week, potentially. And see, this is where you get me, because I now have some sort of belief and hope that we can win this game. And a lot of things, if you know ball, point to us being able to win the game. So let's get into a few of those things. You're gonna have first and foremost, you have Jarvis Brownlee taking on the tall task of lining up on the defensive right of the formation, because Terry McLaurin lines up on the left side of the formation in the Cliff Kingsbury offense 80% of the time, and he is going to take on the task of trying to contain Terry McLaurin. Terry McLaurin is a phenomenal player. However, for some reason, he's been phased out of their offense. I think since week 6, he's only averaging about 5.5 targets a game. I don't know that that is directly tied to the precipitous fall in offense they've experienced, but it probably doesn't help. So, I mean, let's just call a spade a spade. If they decide to try to do that, then we're going to be in pretty good shape as far as what it looks like to contain their passing offense in having to match up with Zach Ertz and with Kenneth Murray. Kenneth Murray played amazing last week, by the way. He had a pick. He should have had another pick. He played cover. He played the carry the seam linebacker in cover 2 about as well as you could possibly play it. I'll put some clips on my Twitter, the platform formerly known as Twitter, excuse me, to all the politically correct out there. But I think that this is, and we'll get back into the matchup a little bit more later. I just wanted to discuss that briefly because I'm really excited to see what Jarvis Brownlee did. Jarvis Brownlee was mic'd up for that Texans game, and it does not disappoint. I think we have a future. I think we have a future star, or at least a very, very, very good cover guy who has amazing instincts in zone coverage and ball skills. That combined with Roger McCreary, if we're able to get Cheeto Awuzie, who's currently on IR, if we're able to get him back, we're able to move Roger McCreary to the slot full time, and then get Cheeto on the outside with Jarvis Brownlee. Amani Hooker's going to be back this week. We could have it's been really, really good. We just have been put in some unfortunate situations, and we're bottom 5 in the league in points allowed. However, we're tops in the league in yards allowed. So that tells you that there's some sort of disconnect. We've allowed about 16 rushing scores on the season, or 15. It's 15. 15 scores to running backs on the season. That's because of short fields and some unfortunate circumstances due to the meme father putting us in unfortunate situations. So let's get to the state of the state. We did get a meme from the meme father. It's the head down sprint to the end zone after throwing that awful pick 6. I think maybe his brain was rattled a little bit. We did give up 7 sacks in 1/2 and 9 total in this game. We're getting Will Levis hit way too much. And with that, it's just, you can't really make full-scale judgments on what type of player he is if you're letting him get hit that much. That's not just how much he got hit. Those are sacks that you can't have. Now, I will say probably 4 of those were on Will, and they were in situations where you can't give up a sack. You've got to know where your hot read is and get that ball dirted into his feet and live to play another down. It cost us points at the half last week against the Texans. So I want to see competent OL play, competent offensive line play. That's what I want to see this week. And that goes beyond just being able to properly evaluate Will Levis. It goes along with being able to support whoever the quarterback is going to be. I still think, hey, Team Cam Ward 2025, okay? Team Cam Ward 2025. That's where I'm at still. Even though Will got us to win 278 yards, 2 touchdowns last week, I think that Cam Ward is going to be in Nashville. I sent him a DM on Twitter, told him, hey, Brentwood's a lovely area, high per capita income. Hey, you'll fit right in. Just saying. So a couple other things I want to see. Nick Westbrook-Akine, he did it again. He scored again. This guy is doing his best Chris Carter impersonation. All I do is score touchdowns. And that's what Nick Westbrook-Akine is doing. It would really, really excite me if we could find a way to incorporate a guy who clearly has a knack for the end zone, sitting down in the soft spots and zones and working his way open. If we could find a way to use him in a manner in which would help matriculate the ball down the field through the passing game, that would be great. Another guy that we should talk about, Chig Okonkwo had a 70-yard catch and run. That was his only target, and he scored. I'm hoping that the coaching staff finds itself looking at that and saying, oh, we have a guy that can do that. We have a tight end that is a 94th percentile speed scorer. We should probably find a way to get him the ball. One would think, but who knows? Who knows? I mean, I've been banging the Chig Okonkwo drum for quite some time, and it just seems like it just might not happen at this point. However, we can still hope that he will be able to find a role in this offense, because we need more playmakers, if we're being totally honest. So, yeah, that's the state of the state for this week. Let's get into a little bit more about what we want to see this Sunday and moving forward rest of season. Like I said before, I would love to see competency within the offensive line. That right side of the line is absolutely atrocious. It's been comically bad. Okay. So if we can just get the legendary ball knower coach, Bill Callahan, to work some of his magic over there and get us just some semblance of protection. Fortunately, it's not Will Levis's blind side, so he's not getting hit and fumbling the ball. Quiet is kept. In fantasy, he's been the quarterback 12 over the course of the last 3 weeks. And like I said, he culminated that with a 278-yard, 2-touchdown performance. He's giving you a little bit of production with his legs. He's alive. He's a live dog when he gets out of the pocket. So that's obviously a positive. And you love to see that. I just wish we could have gotten it a little bit earlier in the season so we would be more in playoff contention, because the Texans are fading and they're fading fast, and there's nobody else. Look, when we play the Colts in a couple of weeks, I fully expect that to be an absolute knockdown, drag out fight. And I'm wish casting for that, for us to be in more of a position to make that a meaningful game. Like I said at the front of the show, T'Vondre Sweat is an all-pro. I was very upset at this draft pick when it happened in real time. A lot of my friends that were texting me, my younger brother, he's like, what do you think about the play? And I was very upset, because I watched footage of T'Vondre Sweat at the Senior Bowl where he looked like he weighed over 400 pounds or close to it. And you can't rely on guys like that, because in my opinion, as someone who played defensive tackle at a lower level, I think that one of your best abilities is availability, and being that big does not lend itself to you being able to be on the field and available to make plays for your team or fill in the role if you're just a two-gap run stopper like I had planned on T'Vondre Sweat being. But he's dedicated himself. He really got into the weeds of it in the offseason and was working really hard. He hired a nutritionist. He's done all the things that you want to see from a young guy who gets it. And then to another young guy, Jarvis Brownlee. Man, I watched all his reps at the Senior Bowl. He was phenomenal. He's a great cover guy. He's a communicator, which you love to have in the secondary. He's not afraid of a challenge. He was tremendous in coverage against Tank Dell last week. I love what I'm seeing from him. If we can get L'Jarius Sneed back, if we can get Cheeto Awuzie back, there's no way you can get this guy off the field. L'Jarius Sneed's done for the year. I don't know why I said that. Quad injury, done for the year, most likely. But if we can get Cheeto back and then keep him on the outside, move Roger McCreary to the slot where he could be really, really physical and handsy with the opposing team slot receiver and disrupt some of those easy throws, I think that we could have something that is a very big problem moving forward for Denard and his ability to disrupt passing games. I mean, going back to the hire, Brian Callahan, head coach, was so keyed up about getting our defensive coordinator, Denard, into the building because of the fact that he came from that Mike McDonald Ravens passing attack where they were so multiple and they had guys that were really physical, and they loved how he wanted someone who could really disrupt a pass game, and Jarvis Brownlee fits that mold perfectly. He's such a playmaker and such a star. The next thing I would love to see, absolutely love to see, I want to see just a 20% target share. Just 20%. I'm not asking for anything crazy. I'm just asking if we can take some targets from the Tyler Boyds of the world and we can get them to Nick Westbrook-Ikhine. Now we've gotten him 6 targets in 3 or 4 weeks. Let's get him some catchable air yards. Let's get him some looks over the middle. Let's let him run some option routes, some in breakers. He's 6'3", he's 215. We can take advantage of that. Let's make life easier on Calvin Ridley. As much as I love from a fantasy perspective being able to have him have a 32% target share, 28% target share, 28% targets per route run, it's going to benefit the offense as a whole and free up Calvin Ridley even more, make him more efficient and raise his catch rate if we're able to get someone else to contribute in the passing game. That could be Chigakonkwo. That could be Nick Westbrook-Ikhine. I think it's more going to be with Nick Westbrook-Ikhine because we've seen him catch 6 touchdowns on the season. He's Mr. Johnny on the spot. He earned his way onto the field. He's a player. So let's not stand on ceremony and pretend like this is just some fluky thing. He's just standing over. He's not Jalen Naylor. This guy is a player. No shade to Jalen Naylor or anybody on the Vikings Uncovered show. I'm just saying Nick Westbrook-Ikhine is a real player. I'm not saying he's a future All-Pro, but I think it would benefit my team, the Titans, in 2024 if we're able to get him more targets. 20% target share, that's all I want, okay? And then more than one look for Chigakonkwo. I think that the reason that these things are paramount is because of the fact that if we're able to get those looks, if we're able to just give Will Levis an easy button, we should have that with Tajay coming back this week and being able to use him as a safety valve in the passing game to get rid of the ball so we're not taking so many sacks. Those things should benefit us in a way that we're not forced into situations where Will has to hold the ball and take hits and potentially put himself in harm's way after dealing with a shoulder injury earlier in the season. So let's get into some key matchups for this week's game. First and foremost, Kenneth Murray played his best game as a coverage linebacker in the NFL last week. In his tenure in the NFL last week against the Texans. And I would love to see what he does this week against the Commanders and Zach Ertz. If he can take Zach Ertz out of the game, that's a key element. I don't anticipate the Commanders being able to establish the run in any way, shape, or form this week. And I think that we're going to be able to play quite a bit of cloud coverage over Terry McLaurin with Jarvis Brownlee at the forefront of that, disrupting his timing. Now, if we just sit and try to play off coverage, Terry McLaurin's going to eat us alive. Or if you just try to play, cover one or, man, no, not man under, but just man, that's not going to work very well. You got to get up, disrupt Terry's timing. For some reason, like I said, they phased him out of the offense, but that's neither here nor there. The biggest matchup to me, the biggest key to victory is making sure that Zach Ertz cannot affect this game. And I think that we can do that again if we were able to do that and take away a couple of in breakers to Nico Collins. Like I said, it really excited me seeing Kenneth Murray play that way in coverage. Him and Jerome Baker, great duo. I hated to see Ernest Jones leave. Jerome Baker is not quite the player that Ernest Jones is, but hey, he's fitting us, and he's fitting us quite well. The next thing, already hit on that quite a bit, so we'll move on to the offensive line. We've got to get hands and get physical with Dante Fowler. He's been on a tear this year. I think he has 6.5 sacks. He's been their top edge rusher, along with they send Frankie they play Frankie Louvu as an off the ball backer, but they send him on blitzes quite a bit, and they've sent him off the edge. They're moving him around like a chess piece, kind of like their version of Micah Parsons, and that concerns me a little bit, especially with how leaky the offensive line's been. So I would really like to see that contained and see him really neutralized, because if we can get some time, I think there's some areas, even though they're playing much better football than they were at the beginning of the season, there's still some holes that can be taken advantage of in that Dan Quinn defense. And then how can we make life difficult for Jaden Daniels? We're obviously not going to play man against him. That's a terrible idea against a quarterback with his type of rushing ability. I don't want to see him spied. I would like to see all eyes on him, making him make a read, a difficult throw, making him have to beat us with his arm, even though we do give up the most rushing yards to quarterbacks on the season. I need to see us make life difficult for him. I don't expect them to have a lot of success on the ground. And so if we can then hone in and take away the middle of the field, you're leaving him with difficult throws to Terry McLaurin and his legs to win the game, in which case, unless he's going to turn into 2019 Lamar, I like our chances to win quite a bit. So it really falls on Denard being able to keep us in situations where Terry McLaurin has to be special in order for them to prevail. So I think that that's something that I really have my eyes on. Like I said, Denard Wilson is one of the guys that came from that Mike McDonald tree in Baltimore, that they really specialized in disguising a lot of looks and being able to play trap coverages and confuse a quarterback and take away what they like to do most, and essentially make you play left-handed in playing in the difficult areas of the field, winning in difficult situations, and requiring guys to be special in order to have success as a unit. But we can move on. Move on to the next point. I want to see what Will Levis is able to do against this Dan Quinn defense. Like I said, it's an old adage to the throwback days of the Legion of Boom, the cover 3, cover 1 match, that type of amalgamation of a defense, but they don't quite have the talent yet. Marshawn Lattimore is doubtful to play this week. So they've been kind of piecing it together. They've controlled a lot of games with the run, with time of possession in the run game. And I think that if we're able to do that, if we're able to get a full complement of snaps and take care of the football, not get sacked 11 or 9 times, I think that leans into a favorable scenario for the Tennessee Titans going into this game. And I trust this feels weird. I trust Will Levis, if he's not being hit, to put us in decent situations. I know that sounds like caveat, to put us in situations to where it's really difficult to lose a game here. So I know the Titans are 5.5-point underdogs on the road, but just looking at the matchups, this is not as lopsided as a 5-point spread. We can move into injuries. Like I said, I think that the Titans can win this game. Austin Eckler's out. Brian Robinson's out. Tyler Biotish, I thought he was going to be out. That was going to get ugly. Andrew Wiley, the right guard for the Washington Commanders, is also going to be out. Cheeto Awuzie for us, I mentioned that he's out. Monty Hooker's back. That's big. That's huge. That's colossal. Being able to get that win without Amani Hooker last week, love that. So him being back in the lineup, that's just more fortification of the middle of the field. Zach Ertz isn't going to hurt you. He's not going to hurt you deep, but especially not with Amani Hooker. Amani Hooker is one of my favorite Titans because he's so versatile. I watched him in person really do a great job on George Kittle way back around Christmas time in 2021, and he's had my eye ever since. So I think the world of him. We're also getting Tajay Spears back, and that should be a net positive in the passing game because we can use him for dump offs and safety valve protection so that we're not putting Will Levis in a situation where he's having to hold the ball and look for people and try to create things, because that's when he gets way off schedule. That's when it goes very poorly. That's when he tries to underhand pass it to Tajay when he just take a sack. That's when he chest passes the ball. That's when he chest passes the ball to somebody and throws a pick six. I laugh with me. It's okay. It's okay. He does really dumb stuff, but he's my quarterback. The fantasy impact players in this game, obviously, we've mentioned it several times now. Jaden Daniels is the key. His rushing floor as a quarterback, he's a Konami code quarterback. We love those guys for fantasy. I don't love him this week just because we're taking him on. And next, his running mate, his A-Spoon Coon, Terry McLaurin. He's a phenomenal player. He's wide receiver 10 or wide receiver 9 or 10 on the year. Like I said, he's only averaged 5.4 targets. He went nuclear. He caught the 86-yard touchdown in the game last week. If we can keep him contained, I think that lends itself to the real outcome of football being the Titans being able to pull this off and pull an upset win in Landover, Maryland. And then Zach Ertz, who is the fantasy gatekeeper, he's keeping Ben Sinnott off the field, and that makes me despise him even more. But I don't think he's going to be much of a factor this game. And, I mean, I just don't see it. I don't see – unless you're going to give him 14 targets, which if they decide to do that, more power to them. They're not going to win if they choose to do that. So, yeah. Yeah. And then Brian Robinson is expected to play. That ankle injury was nasty, so I don't expect to see him at full strength by any stretch of the imagination. And I don't think that they're going to be able to get the ball going, get the run game going and move the ball using the run. I don't believe that they're going to be able to do that. So it's going to come down to Jaden Daniels using his legs, being active on scrambles. They're not going I don't see them designing a ton of runs for him, but we've seen him have 16 rushing attempts in the game, so we know that he will trust his legs to get the job done. And I'm hoping that we have a contingency plan for him being able to break, contain, and get out of the pocket. That's the beautiful part about this is when you have a defensive tackle like a T'Vondre Sweat, like a Jeff Simmons, and you have disciplined edge rushers like Arden Key and Harold Landry, you can collapse the pocket from the inside, and he has to escape out, try to get out the back door. No, not going to say that. But he's got to try to get out the back door, and guys like Harold Landry and Arden Key are athletic enough to try to keep him in contain and throw off the rhythm, taking his eyes off the receivers downfield. So that proves to be a key. That could prove to be a key element. The defensive tackles, that triangle of players, Kenneth Murray, the two defensive tackles, or Jerome Baker and the two defensive tackles, that box triangle is going to be key, because if they can't run the ball, then they have to try to throw the ball to Terry McLaurin. We know that. And that should lend itself to a favorable outcome. But we'll see. You've broken my heart before. You might break it again. On the Titans side of the ball, the fantasy impact players, obviously Tony Pollard, workhorse, handled 24 touches last week, went over 100 yards in the score. We're getting Tajay back, so he might cut into the workload, but it shouldn't cut into the efficiency. I think that the Commanders, they're not terrible against the run, but I like our chances to establish the run against them if we will commit to doing so. That two-headed monster of Tajay and Tony should be able to punch some holes into their front and give us some favorable second and short, third and short situations to where we can get the ball out quick and utilize Calvin Ridley on, slot motions across the formation or those deep over routes. We hit a beautiful deep post crosser last week where Will Levis just dropped it in the bucket. He has the arm talent, so that's what makes it so exciting. But these, being able to get into those second and short situations is a key element to being able to move the ball in a way in which minimizes Will Levis's mistakes or opportunity to make mistakes. Sometimes he doesn't need an opportunity to make a mistake. He's just going to do it. And that's that's just that on that. So next, like I said, we've mentioned it before, Calvin's going to be Calvin. He's averaging 8.6 targets a game since the DeAndre Hopkins trade. He's got a 28% targets per route run rate. He's got a 28% target share in that time. He's been as close to a reliable and elite fantasy option outside of the big dogs. And I think that in this matchup with no Marshawn Lattimore, he should be eating again, which brings us to the next point. Can we get another touchdown from Nick Westbrook-Ikhine? I know all the probabilities say that it's supposed to stop, but hey, Cortland Sutton did it. And I'm not saying Nick is Cortland Sutton. Cortland Sutton's one of my favorite players to watch in the NFL, but Nick Westbrook-Ikhine is clearly carving out a role for himself. He's earned his way onto the field, and I think that has to lead to more targets, taking some pressure off of him. Last but not least, Chig Okonkwo. He scored on a flat route from 70 yards out. Like, what else do I have to say there? He scored on a flat route from 70 yards out. How many tight ends in the league can do that? Zach Ertz sure can't do it. Ben Sinnott probably could, but he's not going to be on the field because of the gatekeeper. So it is what it is. We have to find a way to create more opportunities for our athletes to be, to borrow a phrase from the Eagles coach, Nick Sirianni. Less athlete thinky, more doey. It's not a direct quote, but I'm paraphrasing. Yeah. So with that being said, I'll get into my game predictions. 44.5 is the total. I like that to go over this week. I like the Titans to cover 5.5, and I like the Titans to win outright again on the road. It's going to take a special effort from Jaden Daniels in order for them to pull out this win with a limited Brian Robinson and an ailing Brian Robinson and Jeremy McNichols as the backup. They signed Chris Rodriguez off the practice squad. They waived him all total. Now I think they brought him back. So, yeah, I think that the Titans are going to be able to establish the run. Will Levis probably going to give us another meme, but I think we'll be able to overcome that and come out with the W. What do you want me to say? I'm just a guy out here knowing ball, telling you what's going to happen before it happens. And that's been the rundown with the Titans this week. I'm the legendary ball knower, aka your favorite podcaster's favorite podcaster. I go by Chev. I go by JC. The one thing you can call me a lot of things, but you can't say I don't know ball. Hey, straight fundamentals, no funny business. Y'all take care. Go Titans.